What is up, my beautiful guys, girls, gays, and theys? Welcome back to I Said What I Said. Yay! Thank you for joining me today. What is up, y'all? How are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing okay. I do have to go all the way to London Bridge, though, after this to collect a prescription. Why couldn't you just deliver it to my local chemist? Like, please, give me a break. London Bridge, to be fair, it's not that far from here. But I really can't be bothered because the place that I have to go to, the queue is usually like a good hour to 2 hour wait to get your prescription. What am I meant to do for that long? I need my meds. I need my meds. Basically, I've started these antibiotics for my skin because I want my skin to be flawless, right? And they only gave me a limited amount. So I have to get more now. It's a long day. But thank you to the NHS for helping me anyway. Also, do we like the fit today? I'm wearing a baggy shirt, a pair of jeans, and look at these cute little, can you see this? Look at these cute little shoes. Do you like them? Cute little ballet pump. Cute, right? But I can't walk in them very well because I can feel the whole ground. And I don't like that. I don't like being that close to nature. Actually, yeah, I do. I like nature. But I feel like I can feel everything. I stubbed my toe 3 times on the way here. Not cute, but they look chic. So I'm going to continue wearing them because I'm a baddie, period. Today, I have an interesting episode planned. You know what? We've been doing a lot of deep episodes recently. I just remember this. We've been doing a lot of deep episodes. I don't know. I'm in my deep era. Deep. So deep. I'm in my deep era. I like talking about things. I like talking about things that I've experienced and mental health and all this kind of stuff because that's life. And we all go through things. What I wanted to talk about today was childhood anger. But before we get into that, my song of the week, Gnarly by Cat's Eye. Not gnarly, not gnarly. I'm the shit. Hey. Honestly, iconic. The first time I listened to it, hated it. Played it 3 times, watched their live performances on YouTube. Obsessed. And the people that don't get it, it's not for you. It's not for you. You know, because fried chicken, that's gnarly. I love them. I love Cat's Eye. They're iconic. Also, I dyed my hair pink. The little blonde bits, but it washed out. So I don't know if I should re-dye it pink. Check out my Instagram. You can see it. But I'm considering maybe re-dyeing it pink, but I'm kind of liking the blonde right now. What do you guys think? Anyways, back to the main topic of conversation. So I, as a child, grew up with anger issues. I was a little bit of a troubled kid in the sense that I didn't really know how to regulate my emotions. I never got diagnosed with any anger management disorder as a kid, but it definitely was relevant in my life. My responses to most negative things in my life resulted with a lot of anger. Come to think of it now, I think it's very much related to my trans identity, which is why I wanted to speak about it today. I also want to speak about how anger kind of leads to loneliness and feeling very different from everyone else, and how it's all connected, I guess, into my identity and my identity in this current day. You know, this isn't really about giving advice, I'd say. It's more about sharing a story, one that might be familiar to more people than you think, because it took me a while to realize how deep-rooted my anger was as a child, because I was always very emotionally aware when I was younger. I feel like the day I gained consciousness, I was like, oh, fuck this shit. I had a lot of outbursts in primary school specifically. In primary school, I was messy. But I always got good grades. Also, I was a little boy back then, and I had a twisted perception of myself. I'll tell you that, okay? I had few friends. They were all girls. I had a couple male friends, but not really. They were mates, but they were mates. I was more friends with the girlies because keep your girls close. But yeah, I did a few questionable things in my childhood due to anger management issues. I did not know how to control myself at all. If that was screaming at teachers, temper tantrums, and physical violence. I don't know, I did did things that I like shouldn't have done as a kid. Like I was also kind of known as a kid that had a short temper. I remember this other kid, this guy, I'm not going to say names, but you know who you are. I remember he'd like just transferred to my primary school. He was relatively new. It had been about a few months. And I was sitting at the top of the climbing frame. This sounds like such a TV show story. Like, it sounds so fake, but I kid you not, this is so true. Okay? Basically, I was sitting at the top of the climbing frame, right? And he decides to join me. I used to sit alone at the top of the climbing frame a lot. Like, that was my spot. Like, the top of the climbing frame. Like, you can't touch me here, period. So he decides to come up to the top of the climbing frame and sit opposite me. I'm like, you good? You good? And he's like, I heard you have anger problems. Whoa, Reed? Throwing shade, I just met you. The time that he had been at the school for like the past few months, like I hadn't spoken one word to him. I don't know why. But this is the first thing that this guy says to me. That's ballsy. That's ballsy. You go up to the kid with anger management issues and say, I've heard you have anger management issues. Girl, what are you doing? Boy. I was like, I didn't really say anything. And he was like, what can I do to make you angry? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What can I do to make you angry? That's so weird. Honestly, sometimes I blame the people around me for how angry I was when I was younger. So he keeps on trying to like, I guess like trigger me in a way. And my anger would come out very randomly and unpredictably. And also it wouldn't always be me like screaming. It's more like I used to do a lot of like physical things that were like not cute. Like he kept on trying to, you know, irritate me. And we're at the top of the climbing frame. I think you're going to see where this story goes. Yeah. I just decided to push him. So I pushed him off the climbing frame. Bear in mind, I was like 7. So like, give me a break. No, I was like 8. It was like year 5. And I pushed him off of the climbing frame. And then he stayed clear from me ever since. And then we became friends in year 6. See you. No, I pushed him off the climbing frame. I didn't even scream. I didn't even shout. I literally pushed him. And he fell. And it was a high climbing frame. I didn't even know why we had that climbing frame in our school. That was danger. That was a dangerous climbing frame. You know when you go to those like parks and stuff and you see those massive climbing frames, you're like, what the hell? Probably because I went to some private school. Private primary school, don't know why. Like we could afford that. Do you know what I mean? I think my grandma paid for it, to be fair. But I went to this like school and it had like good amenities. Is that how you say it? Amenities? What's the word? Amenities? I don't know how to say it. You know what I mean. They had good stuff and that climbing frame was huge. And I pushed him off, I kid you not, about a 12-foot climbing frame. He didn't break anything, but he hurt himself real bad. I mean, I hurt him real bad. He was like screaming, like wailing. And the teacher came over and the teachers already knew that I had issues with controlling myself. They obviously knew that I did that. And we weren't allowed to communicate with each other for like the rest of the year. Like we were in separate classrooms. We were in everything was separate. And that leads me on to like the feeling of isolation because I didn't know why I couldn't control myself back then. As a little kid, you get confused. You get so confused. You're like, ugh, why do I do this? Why do I do this? I didn't have a bad family situation at all. I was, you know, relatively comfortable living as a kid. Like, you know, I had all the things that I wanted, all of that kind of stuff. But there was a deep, entrenched, rooted anger within me that would cause me to act out all the time. I was very argumentative to adults, not sure why, especially teachers. However, my grades were impeccable. It was a weird situation because as a kid, I was like, you know, getting in trouble. And I was like, I thought that my actions made sense because I was like, I'm justified for this. And when you get told so often that you're an angry kid, you think it's just okay. Like, oh, I'm just known as an angry kid, so I can just be angry all the time now. And like I'll get away with it. But no, it's not cute. It's not fun. I think also because a lot of the boys in my year group in primary school were like quite hostile to me in a way. Few of them I was friends with, but a lot of them were quite hostile. I think that's because I was the only one that could communicate with the girls. What can I say? I was one myself in the inside. But that also made me feel like I had to put a big barrier up as a kid and fight and be strong. Also, my brother did, teach me some good lessons as well. Having an older brother, it will do stuff to you, but my brother was always very kind to me. But he did give me advice when it came to telling people what's what. So, thank you, Maxie, but no thank you. I don't know. But yeah, it was an interesting time. When I went into senior school, it definitely settled down a lot because I was in a much bigger school. And I realized that you can't just be throwing people off climbing frames in senior school, because that's just kind of weird. Like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? I did have a few fights in senior school. Don't get me wrong. Definitely did. That anger is still within me. Deep down somewhere. I can see red and I can get very angry. And I hate that part of me. I hate it. It's disgusting. Anger is horrible. Sometimes anger feels good, but it depends on the reason. Because a lot of my anger comes from sadness. And you want to be able to separate anger and sadness, because then you just go into a spiral, essentially. That's mental health. That is depression for you. Seriously. When you're angry about the situation that you have and you can't express it in a contained way of sadness, but it has to be an outburst, that's not healthy. And I deal with that regularly. I'm a lot better now, though. A lot better. But I pretty much think that the reason why in my childhood I was such an, little flame is because of my gender identity. You knew I was going to say it. You knew that was going to come. And it's pretty obvious. Like, think about any kid that, feels so deeply uncomfortable within themselves. That's where that anger stems from. They don't know how to express it. I was between the ages of, I'd say 6 to 10. I was an angry fucking kid. Okay? Because I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me. I hated myself. I didn't like who I was. I felt so insecure. So but I didn't know why. That's heartbreaking. I'm sorry, that's really fucking sad. Ugh. My heart goes out to kids like that because it's such a struggle. It's such a struggle. Being a trans person, but not knowing it while you're a kid, but clearly knowing that something is wrong is difficult. I wasn't educated on trans people. Didn't know any trans people. Didn't know trans people existed. I was a bit of a naive little kid. I was emotionally aware of feelings and stuff like that, but I didn't know why I had them. And that's really hard. That's really difficult to deal with. I wish I could speak to that kid now and, tell them that this is not the way to handle this. You don't need to be doing these things. You don't need to be screaming. You don't need to be hurting other people just if they irritate you the tiniest bit. That's not how we're going to do it. But, I was confused. And honestly, now I'm actually thinking about it, it's actually making me kind of emotional because it was a really weird headspace to be in. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Not many people, I fear, remember their, child days. I remember a lot. I remember a lot of what happened to me, a lot of what I did. And it kind of traumatizes me in a way because, sometimes my parents will show me photos from 14 years ago of me, and I can't look at them for longer than 5 seconds. Not because I struggle with seeing a little boy version of myself, but more because I struggle with remembering how I felt in that specific time. Which I know sounds crazy. What, Loulou, you can remember how you felt when you were 6 years old? Yes, I can. When I was 7, probably. That's when I gained consciousness as an individual. But yeah, no, I do remember. And it was hard. I didn't feel good. But I was very good at masking that as well. Because I was so confused with what I was dealing with and my gender, but I didn't know how to say it. I'd kind of mask what the real problem is and express it in unhealthy ways. And that's crap. I wish I could speak to that kid now. I really do. Getting in trouble at school, in primary school and stuff like that, is not cute. I don't know. There was just something not cute about it. My school was a good school, but I think naughty kids were shamed. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't even I was breaking school rules. It was more I was just doing bad things that would negatively impact myself. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't I was, cheating on tests, all of that kind of stuff. It's more just the way I handle my emotions. And it's kind of sad, I guess. It is isolating. It is isolating. Not many people know how to help a kid like that. Nowadays, it's a lot better, I think. Well, I know. It is a lot better nowadays. I think, mental health in children is a lot more accepted. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't that long ago, but I mean, it was actually like, say what, like 10 to 15 years ago. I don't know, mental health was obviously a thing and like everyone, knew about mental health. But I think, children specifically, we just think it's like phases and stuff like that. But if I was given like the proper attention, I think I would have saved myself a lot of distress as a child, because I did have things that I needed to work through and I needed an adult to help me with that. So nowadays it's a lot better, and I'm grateful that our society has that system for younger children. Another thing that I think is really important to remember is that fear is fuel. Fear of rejection, fear of being found out for something, fear of being wrong or broken, or fear of yourself. That can lead to, the fuel to fire your anger. I think fear is one of the most intense emotions you can feel. The anticipation of something bad that's going to happen to you. That is a really, really, really awful feeling. And I still feel fear to this day. I feel fear every day. I'm always scared of something, or if something's going to happen. That's, links into anxiety, of course. But, as a child, your fears are, extremely enlarged, because you only have the perception of your own small world. So the fears that you were feeling felt like they took up the whole space in your brain, because there's only so much that you know. And you know what? That emotional chaos ties into my trans identity and who I am now. I was fighting to exist in a world that, didn't know who I was. And I didn't know either. I do think the lack of language around gender identity, gender dysphoria in the time that I was young, definitely made a big impact on me. The only time that things started to really make sense was when I got to senior school, because there was a lot more people, learned a lot more, I guess, and you also grow, and then the internet and everything. So, I mean, we had the internet when I was a young kid, but, when I was in like the end of year 6 onto year 7, that's when YouTube was popping the hell off, okay? And that's when I was learning things about myself for sure. Reflecting on how far I've come now, I'm proud of myself. Do you know what I mean? I think if little kid me saw me now, they wouldn't really believe it at all. I don't think they would at all. They'd be like, that's not me. That's not me, and that will never be me. Ew, that's what they would say. They'd be like, that's gross. And then they'd probably hit me. But no. Kind of does make me a little bit sad. It's an interesting episode today, because I feel like sometimes when I'm on like recording for this podcast, like I step away from it and really think about what I've said. And sometimes it can be my own therapy. Like I'm literally therapizing myself right now. That's crazy. Thank you guys. But for letting me therapize myself every week. If you're still figuring yourself out, that's okay. Keep going. Rage doesn't make you bad. It just means that you're alive and you need to be heard. Okay, your life needs to be heard and your needs need to be heard. That's what rage is. We all feel rage. We all feel anger. Doesn't make you a bad person. I wish I knew that back then. I know that now. I guess that's kind of the end of what I wanted to say about childhood anger and my personal experience. And I wanted to thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. It's a really important topic for me. They're all important topics to me. I love speaking about these things, and I hope you enjoy it too. But thank you so much for tuning into I Said What I Said today. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.